Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is Graded, where I take a look at NXT and 205 Live and give each segment of each show a grade from A+ to F. It's both Survivor Series and War Games this weekend, so I'm expecting a fair bit of setup in both shows, but hopefully some lovely wrestling too. So without any further ado, hit the intro. Now we're going to start, as always, and as my tie suggests, with 205 Live, and we kick things off straight into a match, no promos, no nothing, and it's going to be Drew Gulak and Jack Gallagher versus Akira Tozawa and Brian Kendrick. Now here in this match, you've got two old rivals, Tozawa and Kendrick, who are basically teaming up together to take on Gulak and Gallagher, and basically before the match, there's a bit of a backstage interview sort of before they come out, and they're asked, how are you going to put your past behind you and sort of work together to win the match? And neither of them can give an answer. They both sort of stay silent and just walk off. Kendrick is very, very eager to get his hands on that sneaky, milky man, Jack Gallagher, from the off, basically goes straight for him before Tozawa tags in, hits him with some strikes, and nails him with a pretty beefy looking standing senton. But then after Gulak and Kendrick both tag in, the heels start to gain control, and the methodical beatdown of Brian Kendrick begins. The beatdown is uncomfortably long, with Tozawa all the way at the other side of the ring, unable to make the tag, and he's not just going to come running in because he's super babyface, y'all. But it's all building to a very big hot tag because the heels are very good at keeping Kendrick in that corner, but he's getting closer and closer to Tozawa each time before he gets cut off. Tozawa then gets the hot tag, levels Gulak with a series of strikes, Gulak peels off to the outside, Tozawa hits a massive suicide dive. Kendrick manages to make a save. Tozawa is about to go off the top rope, and basically Jack Gallagher gets up on the outside. Kendrick pulls his legs away, meaning that Tozawa can hit the missile dropkick. Tozawa then locks in the Iron Octopus, and Gallagher and Kendrick spill back into the ring, and this is where things get a little bit weird. Basically, Gallagher pushes Kendrick. Kendrick goes flying into both Gulak and Tozawa, who are locked up in the Iron Octopus, and it breaks the hold. Tozawa then strangely thinks that basically Kendrick deliberately knocked him and broke the hold to benefit Gulak, which is strange. Basically, Kendrick is stood there and he's going, no, I didn't do it on purpose, and Gulak is sort of getting back to his knees. Gallagher knocks Kendrick to the outside, Gulak capitalizes, rolls up Tozawa for the 3. This sort of miscommunication between the pair has led to their downfall. I'm going to give this one a C. Basically, it was an alright match, but the crowd just didn't seem to be behind any of the men in it. It was just quite weird, to be honest. I think hopefully if this feud continues and it starts to bubble over and Kendrick and Tozawa start to work better as a team, everybody's going to be a little bit more in on the story. We then go backstage to a pre-recorded segment labeled earlier today. Basically, Drake Maverick is stood by a set of scales, and ooh, he loves a bloody good weigh-in, doesn't he? He tells us that he is proud to basically present to us the official weigh-in for the Cruiserweight Championship match at Survivor Series. Ali tips the scale at 182 pounds, Buddy Murphy is exactly 204 pounds, and then they have a bit of an awkward, shove-in match, as if it's, UFC or boxing weigh-in, and it works when in those instances in front of a live crowd when there's this big hype atmosphere around it, but when it's a pre-record and it's backstage in a doctor's office and it's just two men going, I'm gonna do you in, I'm gonna beat you at Survivor Series, it just doesn't have the same feel. It was a little bit cringe. We then go live backstage to Buddy Murphy, who stood with Dasha Fuentes, and basically he says that Ali does not know what's in store for him on Sunday. Back to the ring now, and we have Lince Dorado and Kalisto taking on two local competitors who are named Mike Karma and Kraig Keesaman. Kraig with a K, so it's the same as his surname's initial. But making their way to the ring, Lucha House Party have Penelope. Penelope is back, and I'm telling you, WWE, name your price, I will pay anything. Basically, once everybody's in the ring and they're doing that little bit where the referee's going, are you all okay? You all okay? Let's make sure everybody's okay. Commentary's hyping up the fact that basically Lucha House Party are going to be representing Raw at Survivor Series. So this is obviously going to be a quick, it was always going to be because it's against local competitors, but it's going to be a quick, painless match. And let's see what happens. So we kick things off with a little bit of high pace, and Lince Dorado gets told by Kraig Keesaman that he's not allowed to lucha, and wouldn't you believe it, he only bloody does more lucha stuff. Lucha House Party basically just smash through their greatest hits. Kalisto hits this beautiful Salida del Sol, and then immediately basically does a tope con hilo to the outside, except bounces off his knees on the top rope in order to connect with it. Lindsay then hits the shooting star press on Keesaman to pick up the 3. Quick, painless, lucha, 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 but wait, no, it's not done yet. Maria Kanellis comes on the Titantron. And she's really sarcastically congratulating Lucha House Party, and weirdly, they seem to be like, oh, she's being nice to us, this is amazing. Maria Kanellis then basically says the only reason they're not wrestling Mike and TJP tonight was because Gran Metalik's not there because he's home with his new child, and she is an equal opportunist. This doesn't make sense for a number of reasons, namely that basically Maria isn't wrestling in this match, and while there's 3 of them on that side, there's only 2 that wrestle against 3 members of Lucha House Party. So this week, you could have had a nice even 2-on-2 equal opportunity, as she said, but now she's waiting for Gran Metalik. Basically, she's just doomed her husband and his mate to basically a handicap match. But either way, she states that next week, Gran Metalik will be taking on TJP one-on-one, and I'm assuming basically TJP is going to rip his mask off. Now, I'm going to have to give this one a C-, and I know, again, it might be a little bit harsh, but for me, you cannot grade squash matches on the same curve as a normal match. It is nice to see Lucha House Party effortlessly work their way through their greatest hits, but when we all know you're going to win anyway, it's a little bit meaningless. We then go backstage, and Cedric Alexander is walking through the halls, pacing backwards and forwards, and he tells us that he busts his ass to get to where he is, and Lio Rush is just looking for some easy fame. Cedric's legacy is based on every single thing he does, and he wants to be a good role model to his daughter and to kids all the way around the world. And he says that a title to Rush is just a trophy, but to him, it's everything. Now, I can't grade this one because it's too short, but it's actually a pretty nice little promo from Cedric. We then go back to the ring for our main event, which is Cedric Alexander versus Lio Rush, and this one has been teased, and both guys work like absolute monsters, so it's going to be pretty special, but I don't know why Cedric Alexander is dressed like Sailor Moon, though. That's a bit weird. The crowd are quite clearly into Rush from the get-go. You know, he is getting a lot more exposure on Raw, and he is such a great motor mouth and a really solid worker, so why would they not be on his side? But Cedric manages to keep him under control pretty early in the match. Both guys are evenly matched and at the top of their game. It's just exchange after exchange, and the pace is blistering all the way through it. There's a lovely little moment where Rush drops Cedric on his arse and basically keeps getting in his face going, "Do you want to cry? Do you want to cry?" And then he calls him Cedric. I thought that was wonderful. The action then spills to the outside, and basically Rush is adamant that he's going to get Cedric counted out. He hits him with a drop kick into the barricade before driving him into the steps, getting back in the ring, and we get to 6. Cedric makes his way back in. He just won't die. Rush is basically starting to get more and more aggressive as Cedric refuses to stay down. Cedric attempts the lumbar check before Rush drops out of it. There's a lot of reversals going on here. The pair then start a series of strikes, and basically Cedric hits Rush with the neutralizer, then the flatliner, but Rush kicks out. Just as Cedric seems to be getting his confidence back, basically Rush lays it in with strikes, hits this horrendous looking roundhouse kick into the head Rush, but Cedric manages to kick out, and at this point, Rush is like hulking up into full CZW Lio Rush mode. The pair then exchange strikes and reversals, and basically there's this Spanish fly that commentary's like, we don't know who got the worst of that, and then Lio Rush goes up top rope for the final hour, jumps, and Cedric rolls away. Cedric then picks up Rush for what looks like a powerbomb attempt, but Rush manages to flip through his legs and spike Cedric before basically just bouncing arse first off the bottom rope and then connecting with a stunner. It's mental, you should definitely watch it. But just when everything seemed lost for Cedric, he hits a Spanish fly into a lumbar check. 1, 2, 3, Lio Rush has been handed his first defeat in 205 Live singles action. Coming out of this, Rush still looks really strong. Cedric looks like a beast, and holy balls, what a match. I've not really got any other choice than to give this one an A. It had an incredible pace, wonderful reversals, just great mentality around the whole thing. It wrapped up that bit of story in the build-up quite nicely, and you should also watch the match because Nigel calls Cedric Alexander Cedric Egg Salad Sandra. He sort of trips over the word and accidentally calls him Egg Salad. So a nice strong end to 205. No, it's not. We go backstage, and basically Mustafa Ali says that he's going to win at Survivor Series. What a really strange way to end after such a strong match. It just, I love Mustafa Ali, but it just felt really like, oh God, we forgot to run that. Quickly, play it now. Like, Overall, I'm going to have to give this episode of 205 Live a B. There were a couple of matches that felt undercooked, but Lucha House Party's match was basically just a showcase ahead of Survivor Series about how good they are at doing flippity flips. The main event that was beyond unreal is probably one of the best matches I think 205 Live have put on this year. We now go to NXT, look at the tide change. Yes, lovely tide change. And basically, we're going to kick things off with Mia Yim versus Bianca Belair. This match has been bubbling for a couple of weeks, and it was all sort of confirmed that it was going to happen last week with Bianca Belair and all of that chewing. So much chewing. Belair is keen to establish herself as a main player in NXT's women's division, and she plans on doing that by defeating one of those pesky little indie darlings. Mia quickly gains the upper hand, but Belair manages to get her to the outside before dragging her back in and slowing the pace right down. There's a great little spot where Belair drags Mia into the corner and then climbs up onto the second rope and just lifts her body weight by her throat. It looked really vicious. After a long phase of Belair grinding Mia down, Mia manages to get the upper hand, but she can't put Belair away, and it becomes a bit of a war of attrition. Neither person can really gain the upper hand. Belair then hits the KOD for the victory, and I'm gonna give this match a C. It didn't do wonders in terms of showcasing both women as established strong threats, but it does feel like the start of what could become a really nice little feud, and Mia didn't come out of it looking weak in the end. We then go backstage, and War Raiders, Pete Dunne, and Ricochet are all arguing amongst themselves about who's going to go into that match for the advantage at War Games. Ricochet states his case before Pete Dunne cuts him off and goes, "No, it should be me." And then basically Raymond Rowe just goes, "Enough!" And then Hanson goes, "I'm doing it." And then they all walk off. Nice. We then stay backstage and Matt Riddle is being interviewed, still wearing his suplex jacket that WWE are censoring with little yellow stickers for some reason, but basically he says NXT isn't ready for the bro and he's really looking forward to tearing it all up. But he's then cut off by Cassius Ohno, who demands to know why Riddle hasn't challenged him yet. Ohno then calls Riddle and his whole bro shtick trash, and then Riddle basically says, "I'm gonna knock you out on next week's episode." So we're gonna have Riddle versus Ohno next week on NXT. And then we go back to the arena for Karissa Rivera versus Lacey Evans. Rivera apparently the daughter of former star Steve King, but that does not matter for 1 second to Lacey Evans. She basically just whips her straight away, hits her with a drop toe hold, and then does press-ups on her prone body. Evans then just commences the beatdown. Rivera gets a little bit of offense in and a 1 count. Lacey just basically hulks back up, levels her, just completely levels her, and then hits her with the women's right for the win. Evans then gets on the stick and runs down NXT's women's division as classless, NXT as a whole and the NXT fans as classless, but she is going to teach every single one of them a lesson in class and a lesson in manners. I'm going to give this one a C-. As I said before earlier on in 205 Live, you can't grade a squash the same way you grade a normal match. It made Evans look strong and basically, you know, it did its job, but it's not the same as like a proper battle of a match, if you know what I mean. And now it is time for our main event, which is Kyle O'Reilly versus Hanson of War Raiders for the advantage in NXT TakeOver Wargames in the Wargames match. And I swear to God, Kyle O'Reilly is getting so much better at belt guitar every week, and I just want to see him take on Hogan, if that's possible, please. The story of this match is basically power versus calculated aggression. O'Reilly has nothing on Hanson's power, and Hanson's size means that he's able to absorb a lot more damage than O'Reilly's able to. O'Reilly quite quickly and correctly starts with the submission tactics, but Hanson is still quite strong. He hasn't been worn down very much at all by this point in the match, and he just levels him, gets back to his feet and levels him. O'Reilly then manages to slow the pace of the match right down. He locks Hanson into a hold on his knee and basically just keeps absorbing strikes from Hanson. Hanson is then able to very slowly get back to his feet, hits him with a mean looking backdrop, and then we're back on sort of a level playing field. Hanson has absorbed a lot of damage to his leg, so he's not quite as fast, but he does manage to throw O'Reilly to ringside and hits a mean, horrible, massive, scary looking suicide dive. He then throws O'Reilly back in the ring and he starts climbing the turnbuckle. Basically, just as he's about to climb up to that top turnbuckle to do the moonsault, Adam Cole comes out onto the ramp to create a distraction. Cole then basically just stands there not doing anything, going, "You can't do that, don't you dare do that to my friend," and Hanson shrugs, hits it anyway, but O'Reilly moves out of the way. O'Reilly then quickly tries to capitalize with a pin and then an armbar and then an ankle lock, and basically while Hanson climbs to the rope to get the rope break, O'Reilly doesn't release quick enough. The referee turns his back, trying to tell off O'Reilly, and Adam Cole nails Hanson with a kick. Raymond Rowe then emerges to take care of Adam Cole, and at this point I was quite scared that it was going to end in a schmoz and just be like, you know, that's all we got time for, folks, on this week's episode of Nitro. Catch you next week, as it fades to black and everybody's fighting, and then we just have to find out what happened at War Games. Roddy Strong and Bobby Fish then emerge to attack Rowe on the outside, and I'm again just terrified that this is going to end in a completely weird schmoz and we're not going to know what's happened. Pete Dunne then comes running down the ramp to join in all the fun before Ricochet comes emerging through the back of the arena, through the crowd, up into the ring, and this massive swan dive over the top to take everybody out. The referee is meanwhile on the side of the ring just going, get out, just leave, we need to finish this match decisively, leave the lot of you. But while the referee's distracted, Kyle O'Reilly picks up his tag belt, nails Hanson with it, rolls him up for the 3. I'm going to give this one a B+. Basically, yes, Undisputed Era have the advantage going into War Games, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, but I don't think this match in particular was strong enough to break into the A bracket. But it was certainly full of excitement, and it was great to see Hanson be able to showcase his talents as a singles wrestler. Now, in terms of an overall grade for this week's NXT, I'm going to give this one a B-. It was a strong main event backed up by some pretty direct matches, but at the same time, I'm quite worried that the War Games card still looks a little bit sparse. And I'm also hoping that Bianca Belair and Lacey Evans each get a sort of direct storyline soon, because it's all well and good having them mow through people, but if it's not in the pursuit of anything tangible, it's a bit of a waste. But anyway, this has been graded for NXT and 205 Live. What did you think? Let us know in the comments below. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.